So hi, my name's Jack. I work at EKM as a web developer. I work on the shop management squad. So within that team, we're responsible for all of sort of the back end system for our customers. So EKM is an e-commerce platform, which means that we help people set up online shops. So for our customers to be able to manage their shop, they need to be able to kind of configure how the shop behaves, manage their orders, manage the settings, maybe see some analytics, and that's what we're in charge of managing. So I actually don't have a computer science degree. I don't have any computer science qualifications at all. My degree is in music technology. So kind of growing up, I was always really into music. I kind of played in bands and then got into producing music, a lot of electronic music. So that's what I did at university. I finished my degree there, and then after trying to get work within the music field, I was kind of struggling a little bit, I suppose. Decided that I just wanted to do something different. I'd considered teaching as well, so I'd looked into being a music teacher, but wasn't ready to kind of fully commit to that just yet. So at that time, I decided that I kind of maybe wanted to sort of travel, but also work at the same time. So I moved to South Korea teaching English. So I was an ESL teacher, English as a second language in South Korea. While I was there, I decided to sort of teach myself a bit of computer programming. I had a decent amount of free time, and there were a few different ideas that I had for things that I wanted to make. So I taught myself computer programming. It wasn't as much a decision to learn coding or programming, however you want to describe it. It wasn't like, oh, I want to learn programming. It was more that I have this idea of a thing that I want to do, but I need to be able to program to do that. So I think the first thing that I wanted to do, I was interested in, sounds a bit silly now talking about it, but I was interested in how people trade stocks with computers. So like algorithmic stock trading. And I read a few books on that and was like, okay, I guess I'll teach myself a bit of programming, and taught myself Python. Once I had those skills, I had a bit of an idea for a computer game that I wanted to make, so I played around with that a little bit. This was all while I was teaching, and I kind of just slowly got better. At that point, I still wasn't particularly skilled as a developer. It was more just like a fun thing to do on the side, thing that I found interesting. I'd always found just sort of making things with a computer quite interesting. Even when I was really young, just making this was when I was like 9 or 10, making bits of graphics and things on a computer and going on internet forums and talking to people. It kind of goes back to that a little bit. So it kind of started with that, and then making electronic music on a computer, and then that sort of developed into making software on a computer. And there's a lot of the principles kind of overlap. There's all the time I'm like, sounds weird, but like building a website, and I'm like, oh, this is similar to making a drum beat in a weird way. When people think about computer programming, they usually think that it's sort of very ordered and systematic. There's sort of only one way to do things. You kind of have this thing that you need to build, and then you type some things out on your computer, and then you build the thing. But really, it's not quite like that. There's a lot more creativity involved in writing software than you'd maybe expect. Essentially, you're given a problem, and it's up to you to find a solution for that problem. Now, whether this is you need to create a graph for people's sales, or maybe you need to have a way to create a checkout for an online shop, at the end of the day, you have the problem and it's up to you to solve that problem however you want. And I don't know, you can imagine that there's a million different ways of solving each problem that you're presented with day to day. This kind of overlaps with what I've done previously, where you can imagine if you're writing a song, there's probably even more ways that you can write a song. I mean, your problem is, okay, how do I make a good song, I suppose? And then how you actually go about that, you've kind of got the creativity to solve that problem any way you want. And so like the instruments that you use or the notes that you play. And it's kind of the same with software, where you've got, okay, what programming language do I use? What database do I use? These kind of things. And like, how do I implement my solution to this problem? When I first started, I was worried that maybe because I don't have like this formal education background in computer science, things related to algorithms and data structures I'd maybe struggle with. Kind of read about them a little bit, but I honestly don't know a huge amount about them. And this is probably quite a big part of a computer science curriculum, is covering these data structures and algorithms. So it's effective ways to, or efficient ways to solve certain problems. So things like how you sort things or that kind of thing. But the reality is that you actually don't need to use these skills that much day to day. Or at least you don't maybe need to know about them. Maybe you're using them, maybe you're using certain data structures, but you don't really think, oh, right now I'm using a map data structure, or I'm using a linked list. You kind of do it without thinking almost, at least if you, I don't know, approach the problems the same way that I do, where you're just thinking about the solution. So at EKM, we use a thing called Scrum, which is essentially our way of working. This means that we do our work in 2-week sections. So we do work for 2 weeks, and then at the end of the 2 weeks, we release that piece of work. No matter kind of how much we've completed. If we completed a load, then that's good. If we completed a bit less than we'd hoped, then that's okay as well. We put that work out there. This means that we don't end up spending a huge amount of time on any given piece of work. So the idea is to prevent us from saying, okay, we've got this massive project. We estimate that it's going to take us 6 months, because in the past, it seems that when people have done that, it ends up taking 12 months, and then you end up hitting a load of issues anyway. The idea behind taking 2 weeks to do a bit of work is that you can build sort of the minimum viable product, is what you call it. So like the MVP of a piece of work, maybe release that, see what your customers think. Maybe they've got some suggestions for improvements, and then you can implement those changes over the next 2 weeks, rather than like if we'd done it sort of the way that I mentioned initially, where it's a 6-month project. You might spend 6 months building this thing, and then you find out that it's not actually something that your customers wanted at all. You've got all these features that nobody ever uses. Whereas if you do it the way where you're getting feedback from your customers, and then you're implementing that, and you end up with a much leaner product, and it's a much more useful product for your customers. As an employee, the thing that really stands out to me, or that I really appreciate, is that there's quite a strong learning culture at EKM. So you're always sort of encouraged to pick up new skills or learn new things. This could, a good example of how they do this is what we have called hack time in engineering. So hack time is essentially think it's 5% of our time, or no, sorry, 10% of our time is we're allowed to sort of dedicate to projects that we're interested in. So on a Friday afternoon, we have this hack time to develop essentially whatever we want. And you don't even need to use it for developing new projects. You could use it for just learning a new technology, learning a new language, trying out a new thing that you've seen that you thought was kind of cool, and you think, oh, maybe we could use that. Just have a play around with it. I think that's really good, having that opportunity, or just being encouraged to sort of experiment with these different things. And it is something that helps us to sort of keep up with the technology. You can imagine there's like every year new programming languages come out, new databases come out, hundreds of different things get released that we could use to essentially provide a better service for our customers at the end of the day. And it's kind of nice to have that freedom to experiment with all of these different things and possibly even implement them into our product at the end of the day. So another thing that we have is a education budget. So this can be used on things like online courses, books, going to conferences if that's something that you're interested in doing. And this is quite nice to have. I think it's just a nice feeling that you've got that support from the company if you do want to learn these new things. And it's probably not even support that is the right word. It is that they just kind of, it doesn't border on pushy, but it's sort of that they recognize that your own improvement is kind of important to them. The thing that appeals to me most about having a digital career is being able to use my skills in kind of a creative way. So no 2 days are ever the same. In the past, I've kind of worked in a warehouse and done construction work, and you probably find doing that a lot of the days are pretty similar. And I imagine it's kind of the same for a lot of jobs. Whereas now, like working as a software developer, every project that I work on is completely different. The way that I go about it is kind of different every time, and there's sort of new problems, new interesting problems that I face every day. And if you think that you might find that interesting, coming up with solutions to interesting problems, then probably a career in digital skills is maybe for you. My biggest tip for if you want to become a software developer is to focus on building projects as soon as you can. So you can watch all of the YouTube tutorials that you want. You can kind of read all of the books that you want, but unless you kind of start using those things that you're learning in a practical way, then you're probably not going to be improving as fast as you could if you were actually applying those skills. So pick something that you're interested in. Maybe if you're really interested in like a computer game, you could like build a stat tracker for that computer game. Maybe if you're really interested in something else, then you can just try and apply your skills to things that you're interested in. Pick a project that you're excited about, because otherwise you're going to put yourself off building this thing before you've even done it. But if it's something that you can wake up and be excited about actually making, then you're obviously going to be more committed and more motivated to actually build that thing, and therefore kind of through building it, you'll develop the skills. And at the end of the day, you're going to have this project that you can take to potential employees and show them, say, look, I built this thing, rather than being able to go to them and say, oh, I read a book or I watched a video on YouTube. Even those kind of courses where they give you like a bit of a certification at the end probably aren't as helpful, at least for software engineering position, as actually going out, owning your skills and building something. So the first reason that I enjoy my job, for kind of purely selfish reasons, is because I find the work interesting and kind of different every day. Wake up and I do something that is interesting to me, and then I wake up the next day and I do something slightly different that is also interesting to me. Another important thing for me for the enjoyment of the job is that I think it is sort of a worthwhile thing to build. At EKM, we're building a product that helps people set up an online shop. So we're essentially helping people make a livelihood, and that's quite fulfilling for me, knowing that at the end of the day that I've built something that is going to help somebody else out in their life is it's a nice feeling. Thank you everybody for watching. I hope you've enjoyed the video, and take care and good luck in everything that you do, hopefully in digital skills.